Okay, here we go. So I think we're live on Facebook. Getting live on Instagram, just for shits and grins. Haven't done that before. And now we're gonna wait for people to show up. Kelly, you gonna do video?
I am on a walk at the moment, so it's going to be a little bit shaky, but I can.
Oh, well, no. Is Michael cooking?
So we could not find bucatini. We couldn't find pasta or pecorino. So we're watching so we can learn, so we can do it again.
Okay. You can just, nice background, Eric.
We just wanted to see your handsome face.
Mm-hmm. All right. We're gathering our group on. Eric, are you cooking in the jungle right now?
That's a picture of a forest in New Zealand.
Oh, very nice. I think
This
Zoom.
is my background. Yes,
Eric, are you using the Canva backgrounds for Zoom?
No, so I just went in, chose a virtual background, and then I just selected a picture from one of my subdirectors. You have to install a virtual green screen to make it work.
Hey, Lori.
Hi, Rob. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, gorgeous?
I am fabulous.
Are you
You
guys?
look awesome.
Oh, there's Sarah. Hi,
Cheers.
Sarah.
And there's Jennifer. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi.
How are you?
You guys holding up okay?
Who are you talking to?
To all of you.
We're housebound.
Yeah.
I'm having an Aperol spritz.
Oh, did you hear me? What?
Oh, wine.
Was it wine time?
All right, guys.
Adam, you said that your food processor is the key to your trick. Is that for the pasta or also for the sauce?
That's just for the sauce. Okay, guys. Who is actually cooking? Eric and Robert, you guys cooking?
Yes.
Okay. Jennifer Castello, you're cooking? I'm gonna.
Can we just do the normal background? It's kind of distracting.
No, like a little beach or something.
No, it's distracting.
Okay.
What happened to him?
I don't know. Looks like we're the only ones that. So.
Have crashed it. You guys there?
Yeah. Okay. We weren't sure if it was on our end because our internet is not fabulous out here.
Yeah, I think the whole thing just crashed for a minute. Are you guys hand making pasta?
We're not making pasta,
Okay.
but we
No,
are
I'm
going
going
to
to use dry pasta.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then we can actually, unless somebody comes in here that is planning on hand making pasta, we can shorten the whole thing because I was going to teach how to make pasta, but the more important thing here is learning how to make cacio e pepe. So let's wait a few minutes and then we can jump in.
Is Marsha not getting on this?
I don't know.
Oh.
She's trying to get on right now. I just called her.
Who's got
Okay.
one?
Oh, there she is.
No, that's not her. Is she there? Is she on Facebook?
No. All right.
Trying to go on
Oh
Facebook.
my gosh, I changed the back of my cheek.
Judah, come here.
Stop in a normal background.
No, I don't know.
What are you doing? Why?
So,
No, have it normal. That way they can.
They're putting different pictures in for their background.
so John O'Neill, are you guys planning on making pasta, or are you going to use box pasta?
Making the pasta.
Making the pasta. Okay, because right now, I think you're the only ones that have gotten the stuff to actually make the pasta. So we have
I would still be super excited to watch the whole process, even though I'm going to use dry.
We would as well. I think that's exciting. We're just scared.
You're scared, I'm not
Say hi. Hi.
I just didn't want to run to the market to get something.
Okay, so let's make pasta. Then we're going to jump right in because we have to start the pasta now. For those that are doing box pasta, everybody's going to want to just put a pot of water on to start boiling, because when we get to that, you want your water ready. We don't want to be delayed. So I have water that is pretty far along. I'm going to put it on a super low heat because it already was boiling, but get your water going. To make the fresh pasta, you're going to need the conversions that I sent. If you don't have a scale, if you do have a scale, you can just follow the, not the conversions, but the grams. Sarah, are you using a scale?
We're all measured out. We're ready.
Oh, okay, good. Well, then I have to measure out and get ready myself. So I'm going to make the portions for 4. And I'm using, there's a chef named Evan Funky, and I'm basically using his recipe, his technique. The thing is that normally you're going to want to have your pasta rest a lot longer than we're doing it. So we're just going to have it rest the amount of time it takes us to make the sauce after we make the pasta. But normally what you would want to do is wrap it up for about 15 to 20 minutes, go back and knead it again, and then let it sit for like 5-6 hours. Do you have a pasta machine, Sarah?
I do.
Okay, good. Then you're all set. So I'm going to start out with, I'm doing four portions of pasta. So that means that I have 303 grams of flour. So I'm going to measure that out on the scale. What size are you doing, Sarah?
454 grams.
Okay, so you're doing 6 portions.
Are we?
And we just had somebody
Sarah,
else.
is this the same machine?
It is.
Okay, so.
Okay, I'm going to try it too then.
All right. So I've got my 303 grams of flour. And what you want to do is you want to create a pile on your flat surface. And you're going to create a well in the middle. The well needs to have high enough sides to be able to hold all of your eggs. So that's the main factor here, is building up a barrier so that the eggs don't wind up spilling out all over your counter. So if you can see mine, I've got, like a little volcano there. And I believe the actual term in Italian is related to volcano. So then I'm going to measure out my eggs. Now, it's much more accurate to measure your eggs in weight versus the number of eggs, because eggs come in all different sizes. Last time when we did the tortilla española, we talked about pastured eggs. Here more than ever, you get that bright orange yolk transfers into the pasta and gives you a really nice deep dark yellow color. So for the 4 portions, the amount of eggs is 172 grams. From what I believe, the average egg is about 60 grams. So we'll see how many it actually takes. But each egg, yeah, that's a smaller egg. So that's only 47 grams for that egg. But you're going to measure out, Sarah, you're at 258. And you already measured yours?
58. Yeah, I haven't measured my eggs yet.
Okay.
Am I separating out yolks?
No, you can just go all in. This recipe, I have done recipes where it uses extra yolks, but traditionally in Italy, it's the Italians do 1 egg to 100 grams, and I think they have a more standard size of an egg, but 1 egg to 100 grams of flour is their recipe. Over here, it's better to be a little bit more precise. Okay, so I'm going to 172. Okay. And I'm a little bit over, so that means that I'm going to pull out a little bit of this. I'm going to mix it. I'm going to scramble it up first in here so that I can pull out an even amount. And I'm just going to in the sink so that I get down to 172. And
Sorry, Adam, I'm at 454. What is my egg measurement?
258. Oops. There it is. All right. So then what you're going to do is put your eggs right in the middle.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
Of your volcano of flour. And let me know when you guys get there. I know you're catching up a little bit, Jennifer.
Good, keep going.
I'm going to talk a little bit about cacio e pepe while I wait for you guys. How about that? So here's the deal. Cacio e pepe is a Roman dish. And if you're looking for the history of it, they claim, and I don't know how truthful this is, but they claim that it goes back to Roman times and that the sheep would roam freely on the hills, and the sheep herders would travel long distances. And in order to feed themselves, they would very frequently make sheep's cheese, which is the pecorino, the cacio in the recipe. And then they had dried peppers and dried pasta, and it would be a very easy to make and portable dish. So because all you need for cacio e pepe is pecorino cheese, fresh cracked pepper, and in the case of some of you, dried pasta, we're making it with fresh. The reason I'm making it with fresh is my favorite restaurant in Rome is the Salumeria Roscioli, and they make it with a tonarelli, which is the Roman variety of chitarra pasta. It's called chitarra because it's made on this. So this is a chitarra, and you can see it's a bunch of metal strings like a guitar. And when we get to rolling it out, I am going to be pressing my pasta through the chitarra, and then it produces a really lovely shape. The Romans, I don't know why they call it tonarelli, but there's a couple Italians in the Facebook side that could probably answer that. I see Dario Barbone is in there and Angela Palmieri, both well-known Italians. So anyway, that's the version that I like the best. If you're making it with dried pasta, spaghetti would work. Any pasta would work. Spaghetti is very easy to do. I think bucatini is the best for the dried pastas because bucatini has a little hole through the middle of it. So it's a thicker spaghetti, and then there's a beautiful hole, and that hole soaks up the sauce really, really well, and just gives you more of the goodness. So frankly, any pasta will do. Interestingly enough, today my neighbor is an importer of really high-end Italian products, and he was cleaning out his warehouse. His business is really struggling, and anyway, he asked me if I wanted to get some pasta. So there's no shortage of pasta in the Zolot house anymore because we just got a big bag of, this is called mezza maniche, which is it's like a half of a rigatoni. And this is traditionally used for amatriciana, which is the second pasta in the holy trinity of Roman pastas, the third being carbonara. And then there's an auxiliary one called alla griscia, which is a modified version of the carbonara and the cacio e pepe. They're all very similar. Anyway, you guys ready to start mixing your pasta? Okay, so you take a fork and you scramble your eggs, and as you're scrambling your eggs, you start pulling from the inner walls of the pasta and incorporating it, and you want to make almost like a slurry in there. and get it nice and even and smooth, and continue to break down the walls until it has some structure to it. And this is why you build your walls up high, because until it gets a little solid, the eggs could easily run out all over the table. So just sort of gradually mix it in with your fork, and ultimately you will have something that has more substance to it. And then what we're going to do is, I think I mentioned it in the tools necessary, but if you have a bench scraper, this is going to be really helpful next. Does everybody have a bench scraper, a pastry scraper, some sort of thing that looks like this? Sarah, you got it. Good. And just keep going from the inside until it has enough substance that it stands up on its own and won't slide around. And then when you get to that, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to take from the outside with your bench scraper, if you can see mine, and you're going to flip flour from the outside in, and then you can literally just cut it in with the bench scraper and go underneath and start forming your dough like that. So taking the bench scraper and using that to mix up your dough and literally cut it right into it until it starts to form a ball. And you can scrape it off the fork at this point. And then soon we're going to get our hands into that. So if you keep going at it like this, it's going to come together pretty quickly now into a dough ball. And then we're going to be able to start kneading it. So everybody should be in this phase, and now you can see it's starting to have shape. Now, the kneading technique, once you get to this point, you don't want the parts that are starting to dry out, you want to be careful and not take too long to get these dried out parts, because they're going to be hard to incorporate. So I'm going to get rid of those, and I'm going to add a little more flour to the table. But what I'm going to start doing now is I'm going to start putting my heel of my hand into it, flipping it over on itself, turning it a slight quarter turn. So I'm using the heel of my hand, I'm flipping it over on itself and pulling it back in this motion. And you're going to do this quite a bit. And what you're looking for is to incorporate the flour with the egg, and it should start smoothing out, but it shouldn't be sticky. So the idea here is, if it is too sticky, you want to add a little more flour. And you can, as it starts to really form up, you can use your second hand in behind your first hand here. And I'm just, every time I'm driving my heel into it and I'm turning it a little turn. And it's work. So you better settle in, because we're going to do this for a few minutes. And what we're trying to do ultimately is to get really good incorporation. Then ultimately the egg is going to hydrate the flour. And that's why, and also we're getting air into it. That's the other thing. As we flip, we're building little air pockets, and that adds to the lovely texture. So you can see mine's starting to come together. I don't want to rip it as I'm doing it. You want to put the pressure in there. You kind of want to fold it onto itself, but there's no reason to rip it. And technically, you should be doing this for somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes. You start to get to understand the feel of the sort of silky exterior of this that you're looking for. I think people are still joining. I hear people joining the chat. I can't see you, so welcome. Grab some wine. We're making pasta. And when you get to a point where it feels really good, it's smooth, what you're gonna do is start to not fold it as much, but take it on the turn, drag your heel into it, and you're trying to create a smooth surface around one side of it. So it's almost like you're pulling it up and then pushing it down without breaking it and just reforming the shape of it a little bit. As you use your hand, sort of pull back a little bit as you're making the turns. Does anybody want to show me theirs so that I can check to see if it's going well? John Haley, how's it look? How does it feel? Oh, you guys are on mute.
Mine feels like it's way too dry.
If it's way too dry, then wet your hand a little bit in the sink. Just wet your hand a little in the sink. And that's the trick for adding a little moisture at this point. Wouldn't be to add more egg, but just get a little bit on your hand. Okay, mine's getting pretty close. It feels good. So, as you can see, what I've been able to create is a really smooth surface with a nice yellow color. It's not sticky. It's not dry. If you're using the ingredients just as we indicated, also the 00 flour could have an effect as well. I don't know if you're using 00 flour. All-purpose flour has, it's milled a little finer, the 00. Has a better absorption and it's higher gluten. Makes for a silkier texture in the pasta. So I highly recommend using 00. And you should have results kind of like this. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to grab some plastic wrap and we're going to wrap it while we start the sauce. Okay. Now the trick to wrapping it that Evan shows in his instruction is you take the sort of funky side. His name is Funky. You take the smooth side and you put it down, and then you pull a corner up here and you're trying to remove the air and sort of wrap around like this. So you're getting good coverage with minimal air gaps and folds. So I'm going to wrap this up and I'm going to put this aside. And as I said, the recipe calls for it to sit and rest 15, 20, 30 minutes, come back in, do another kneading to the same way, and then wrap it. And you can store it in your fridge or out at room temperature overnight. Jennifer, one thing you also might consider as you're doing it, I kept this here very specifically in case it happened to me. This is a spray bottle. And if it feels too dry, instead of wetting your hand in the sink, you could have a spray bottle and just give it a spritz. And that also helps to hydrate it evenly. So I always keep one on hand when I'm doing pasta. You can never tell. The atmospheric conditions can affect your pasta. I'm going to clean off the bench. We'll get back to rolling the pasta in a minute or in 10, 15 minutes because we're going to make the sauce. And we're going to talk about the sauce and I'm going to talk about the trick to making good cacio e pepe. I know that's the reason why a lot of you are here because I made some bold claims about making good cacio e pepe. So Sarah and Jennifer and anybody else who's making the pasta, you'll just want to wrap it in plastic. I'm going to talk about this sauce. The thing about cacio e pepe is, and I said this, I don't think I was really clear about it on the website, but a lot of people have these recipes where they put butter and oil and cream and top to bottom, hands down, full stop, that's not cacio e pepe. It's cacio e pepe-like, but it's not cacio e pepe. Cacio e pepe is done simply with cheese, pepper, some of the pasta water, and pasta itself. And the reason people use those is because it's a cheat. And it helps you to get the hardest part of this, which is an emulsification. So the technique behind cacio e pepe is to find a way through temperature and friction to emulsify the ingredients. And what happens is a lot of times you put hot pasta with this type of a hard cheese and it hits it and becomes stringy and it breaks and it will become oily. And if you try to cook it in a pan, if you just tried to figure out this recipe, and even watching a lot of people online, I've ruined a lot of cacio e pepe. And I constantly sort of wringing my hands at how can I do this consistently and regularly without ruining it and recreating that unbelievable silky texture. And I had a revelation. I was in Rome this summer and we took a cooking class at Roscioli, which is my favorite place to make this. Hi, Michael. And they had us do a technique, which was a pretty solid one, where you take a metal bowl and you grate your cheese into the metal bowl, and then you take some hot water and you whisk it. And it made me think, well, that's the regular technique. That's what a lot of people do. And then they add the pasta in there. And that's exactly what I do when I'm making a salad dressing, or I'm making a hollandaise sauce. Anything that's emulsified, you're basically putting friction. So you're whisking and you're adding a fat, and you're hoping that whatever you're combining is creamy. And I thought to myself, well, if I tried to do this in a food processor, which I often do when I'm making a big vat of salad dressing, you're making salad dressing, you want to emulsify it, you put your ingredients in, and then you drizzle the oil in. We've all done that at some point. And as you drizzle the oil in, it gets thicker. So I tried it with cacio e pepe to unbelievable results. That by taking the hot water, adding it to the cheese straight in the food processor and drizzling it in, every single time that I've done it, I've gotten a perfect, smooth, creamy emulsion that I then mix in with the pasta, and you don't need to reheat it. If you do need to reheat it, then you do it gently over a double boiler so that you don't break the cheese. Adding the pepper in while it's in either here or taking it out and mixing it in. And boom. I had never heard of anybody else doing it. It could be blasphemy to the Italians. They may hate me for this, but to me, it really delivers on the ideal nature of what I'm looking for when I make cacio e pepe. So I think we should start preparing to make the sauce.
Hey, Z.
Yo.
It's Ed. I can't figure out how to get my video thing going, but I have a question. What's the difference between using your machine? Mm-hmm. Why do you have to use a machine? Can't you just do it like the way the grandmas do it with their?
Well, that's what I'm saying is you can do it by hand. And the way the grandmas would do it is to have a whisk and to put the cheese in a bowl, mix up that cheese, and add hot water to it. And you're doing the same thing. The problem with that is you get less friction. So it's less creamy. From what I understand, at Roscioli, the restaurant that I like, they actually have invested in some machine that's like an ice cream making machine that makes the emulsion for them. That I had written to them years ago, and they told me that it was like a $50,000 machine. But yeah, if you don't have a food processor, the only way you're going to be able to make it is by hand. And you're going to do the same thing that I do. And instead of using that, you take a microplaner, you shred your cheese, and then when you have your pasta water, you drizzle it in and you mix it like this. We've all done it with making whipped cream, with salad dressings, with hollandaise, etc. I'm using technology, but the thing I find is that it's much more consistent and ultimately more creamy than the sauce that you make from the manual method.
So Adam,
yes.
Hold on one sec. Ed, if you're having a hard time with the video, we were on a Zoom last night, and my mom, not to say that you're old school like that, but she had the same problem. Try tab, and it should pull the video back up.
Okay, can you say that again? My dog was barking.
Try hitting Alt Tab, and see if that pulls your video back up.
Tech support.
I'm in Mac. What's Alt Tab?
Oh, it's that funny Apple insignia thing, and then the tab sign. I'm not an Apple guy. I'm a PC guy, but
Okay, Command Tab, and then I get my. Thank you for trying to help.
So, back to the recipe. I use 2/3 Pecorino Romano. Oh, look at that, a little baby Valentine. Hi, baby Valentine. Oh my God, so cute. So cute. Hi. Okay, so I use 2/3 Pecorino and 1/3 Parmesan. The original recipe would be Pecorino only. Thing about Pecorino is it's really sharp, it's salty. Parmesan adds a nuttiness, a roundness to it. I like it. The other thing that I've done, I used to use this all the time. This was my favorite implement for putting cheese on pasta. I now, most of the time, put my cheese in the food processor. I like the texture. It's much more like what you get in Italy when you go to a restaurant and they're spooning Parmesan. They're using something, they're using a grinder. So Jennifer, that's like this. That does the same thing as this, it just does it more efficiently. But the texture you get, and I think you might have been the one that challenged me on it once, but then liked it ultimately. So what I do is I cut my cheese into some reasonable sized blocks. So if you're making the sauce, you want to do this with me. And the amount that you use, this is an interesting thing because I always make too much and then I wind up using it again. You can refrigerate this after the fact. So cut up your Pecorino and your Parmesan into blocks. And then you're going to add them to the food processor, and you're basically going to keep it going until it turns into a fine sawdust-like texture. I may not use all of this because it's a lot.
How much do you think all that cheese, that big, huge pile of cheese you just threw in there?
So that was a pound of Pecorino, and it was probably a half a pound of Parmesan. So I'm going to go with what I've got in my processor, which is probably about 3/4 of a pound of Pecorino and a little more than a 1/4 pound of Parmesan.
And you think that's $25 worth of cheese?
More than that, I'm sure. But I hoarded, while everybody was hoarding toilet paper, I made sure the first thing that I got was Parmesan cheese. I bought out the store of all their Parmesan cheese because I knew that would be, if my mother showed up or my sister showed up, then I knew that we'd have to be stocked up.
You keep the rinds for stews and stuff?
I do. I have it in a bag in my fridge. Highly recommend everybody do that for stocks and stews. Okay, so I'm going to puree this, and it starts off a little noisy. And right now it's into sort of thick globules, and we're going to keep going. You'll hear the sound of it change when it gets super fine. You also want to make sure that it's pretty cold, because if it's warm, it'll start to clump up a bit. So if your cheese is cold, it'll shred better. So I can hear the sound of it starting to change. And then it starts to get really floaty and light, and that's where you want it to be. So it takes a little bit of time. I think we're good. Okay. The other major ingredient is pepper. The best cacio e pepes that I've had use exotic peppers. You can use, as long as it's fresh cracked pepper, it's fine. But if you want to get deep into it, Malaysia has some of the best peppers. Sarawak peppers are quite well known, and that's what Roshola uses. And that's what I use. I keep a store of them. You can get them on Amazon. They're not that expensive, relatively speaking. And they really have a different dynamic and flavor. You would be surprised. You think pepper's pepper, but it's not. So what you want to do is crack out quite a bit of fresh cracked pepper. I would probably say for what I put in there, I'm probably going to pull out about a tablespoon, if not a little bit more. And that's going to get incorporated once we get our pasta water going. So the whole thing will come together pretty quickly at the end, because what will happen is we're going to cook our pasta, and with the water from the pasta, we're going to use that to emulsify. Now, here's the thing. You don't have to. There's a little bit of starch that gets added from the pasta water. I don't think it's enough to make that much of a difference that if I were prepping this and I had to serve a large group and I didn't want to have the pressure of doing it on the fly, then I would just add in some just below boiling water into this. But you want to keep the cheese in your food processor because we're going to use that soon. I think, Eric, you might be taking it out. Or you're just thinning it out?
Yeah, I'm just taking some out because I grated way too much.
Okay, well, that's good. You can always use it. That's the thing. So as I was saying, let me show you. This is what I prefer to put on pasta. I don't like the microplane texture anymore. I prefer what comes out of this, which, as I said, is much more what you find in Italy these days. So
yeah, it's a slightly coarser ground.
It's a coarser grind. It's not like the wispy sort of microplane cheese. And
hey,
I
Adam,
prefer this.
Can I ask a stupid question?
There are no stupid questions.
Great.
Only stupid people.
If we don't have a food processor, will this still work in just a regular blender?
In a blender or just microplane it.
Or just microplane?
Yeah, but how do you not have a food processor?
I know we don't have we have a small kitchen, so we don't have a lot of room for equipment. So we have a blender that's supposed to do everything. We have the Ninja, actually. We used to have a Beasley.
You can try it in a blender, but what I would do is if you want to try to microplane your cheese and then drizzle in the blender, that's probably the better way to do it. In fact, I thought about if you really wanted to get it aerated and creamy, you could do it in the smoothie attachment and put a little water in that, and that's going to get it like super airy and creamy.
Hey, Adam.
Yes.
I missed how much pepper. This is how much cheese in my.
I would say grind out yourself like a good old tablespoon of it. And the smell is incredible. Like right now, my apartment smells like cacio e pepe, and I haven't made anything because the cheese and the pepper is everything, and it's so fragrant and aromatic. Okay, so now we're gonna get back to the pasta. Let me know when you guys are ready to do that.
Find where those are.
And I'm gonna clear my space a little bit. So thickness that we're gonna roll the pasta to is a matter of preference. I like, with a fresh pasta, a fairly nice thickness similar to the bucatini. Evan, in his book, he relates it to the number of Post-it notes, which I think is a really great way to measure it. And for his tortellini, he uses, I think, 9 Post-it notes. So I'm going to just, when I do it, I'm going to see where I get it and what I like it at, and then I can give you a reference of how many Post-it notes it is. So I did not put that in the tools that you will need, but if you happen to have Post-it notes handy, that'll help to us to have a similar gauge about thickness. John, you look like you're ready for it. Jennifer, you ready? All right. Okay, so I'm going to take my ball. And again, ideally we want it to rest a lot more. It's it's got a decent texture right now. When you push it with your fingers, it should bounce back a little bit. But I would definitely let this go a lot longer. But for story purposes only, we're gonna get into it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take some flour on my surface so that it doesn't stick.
Letting it sit for like 6 hours, like if you did it in the morning and then had it for dinner.
Yeah, what you would do is take it out now, knead it again, and then wrap it, let it sit for like 6 hours. And you can do it either refrigerated or unrefrigerated. It really, if you let it sit overnight, I would put it in the fridge. But as long as it's wrapped in plastic, it should be fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this into 2 pieces, and I'm going to roll out some pretty long sheets, and then I can cut it down. So the one that I'm not using, you want to make sure that you keep it dry and keep in plastic. Sarah, you'll probably cut yours into 3 or 4 pieces. You want to work on about 2 portions at a time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to knead it again a little bit more. And the technique you want to use is the same one you used the second part of the kneading when we made this, which is use the heel of your hand. Don't fold it onto itself that much. Just use it to a quarter turn, dig your heel into it, come back up to the high side, and then down again. And incorporate a little bit more flour if it's too wet, or keep it away from the flour if it's too dry. And then what you're going to do is flatten it out with your hands. We forgot to wash our hands before we started, people. I mean, I did, but I didn't do it on screen. And then you're going to run it through your widest on the pasta maker. Now, here's the thing. Evan, in his book, talks about making pasta. The best way to make pasta is with a rolling pin, actually using a thing called a Matarello. So he uses a dowel like this. And I'm not going to do it this time because time purposes and nobody else has that. But rolling out pasta by hand allows you to keep the texture and the air bubbles. Putting it through these 2 metal braces just crushes them together. And it's not necessarily a horrible thing, but it does change the dynamic of it. So these things are great in a pinch, but if you really want to learn how to make handmade egg pasta like a bolognese, I'll put a link on Facebook after we're done of the technique because it's really cool. So I'm going to go ahead and roll this out on 1 to start, or 0. Okay. And it feels smooth. It's not too dry. So this is good. We're going to just keep going with it and progressively just get thinner and thinner. And if at any point it starts to feel like it's going to stick, at this point, you're not going to worry about it being too dry. But you just want to make sure that you're not. So I'm going on to 4 now. And I'm just going to keep passing it through and thinning it down. And, generally what I'm looking for is when I hold it up, I want to be able to see through it. And as I said, I'm probably going to go a little bit thicker. This particular machine goes up to 9. I'll probably take it to a 6, 7. I'm on 5 right now.
And Zebra, if they're using the KitchenAid, nose attachment, go slow. Go slow.
Yeah. Do you have one of those, Ed?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I tried it and I didn't like it. I like the manual control.
If there was a issue, it would be how wide it is. Like yours right there is probably 6 inches. And do they make them where they're like you get a little bit more room to screw around, and sometimes you get them clogged up in the sides, right?
Yeah, you can get commercial ones. You can get commercial ones that are much wider. But these residential ones, this is about as wide as it gets. So here, I have a limitation now on how long I can make my noodle. I'm going to use the chitarra. So I rolled it out to a 6. It's pretty thick. The number of Post-it notes is, let's see. I would say that's, no, one less. Okay.
And why so thick, Adam?
I like the texture with this pasta. The Tonarelli to me is a little bit of a thicker pasta. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is 10 Post-it notes. So if you're looking for a reference of what I'm doing, then, so the Italians have a thing called, I think it's mal tagliata, which is the bad cuts of pasta, these little ends here. You could put it through a machine if you're cutting spaghetti. So here's the thing, if you guys are making spaghetti, the next thing you want to do is put your spaghetti attachment on it. If you want to hand cut it, then I'll talk about that in a second. As I said, I'm going to use the chitarra, which none of you have. So I'm going to give you other options. But if you are doing it as a spaghetti, you can just add the attachment and then run it through your spaghetti attachment.
Can you hold the guitar up so we can see what it looks like?
So this is the chitarra. It's got the strings. It's got wider ones on the other side, if you want to make wider ones. And then it's got a little reservoir, an angled reservoir. So when the pasta goes through, it'll drop down. It's a fantastic device. It's like $30 on Amazon. Highly recommend it. So what I'm going to do. Yes?
Can you send me the link? Because I've actually looked, I've been looking to get a chitarra for a while.
Yeah.
And I found some really cheap, like plastic ones, and I want a nice wooden one.
Yeah. Okay.
Can you send me, just text me the brand that you use?
I would be happy to.
Thank you.
So I'm going to put a little flour on top of it because we don't want the rolling pin to stick. And I'm going to push down. The technique is to first push down with your rolling pin so that the pasta gets through the strings. And then that's not going to be enough to get it all the way through. So what I'm going to have to do then is start sliding the rolling pin, and you'll see they start dropping through. So it's a pretty cool process and makes some of the best pasta. Sarah and Jennifer, are you guys going to use a spaghetti attachment or a fettuccine attachment, or are you going to hand cut?
We're doing fettuccine.
Okay, so you're going to hand cut.
Oh, sorry. Then we're doing linguine. I don't know what the hell we are going to do.
Okay, you're going to do the attachment on your machine.
Yeah.
And Jennifer?
Check. I'm right here. Look it.
You already did it. Good job. So you guys are ahead of the curve.
Nice job, Jennifer.
Fantastic. Okay, so here is my first of 4 from the chitarra. And you can see Tonarelli. It actually comes out pretty round when it gets extruded through the machine. They're pretty thick and just beautiful, beautiful noodles. So I'm very happy with this. Judah will be very happy with this. I'm going to put them in a little nest and put them right there. And we're going to do the others. You probably want to get your water up now. So if you've been holding it at a reasonable level, I do not salt my water when I make cacio e pepe. Everybody talks about salting your water like the sea. Here's the thing. Pecorino is so salty. that if you put that much salt in your water as you would with other pastas, I think it's too salty. So I rely on the saltiness of the cheese. That's your call. And I was saying mal tagliate is the bad cuts from the ends of pasta. You can then cut them up into other little shapes, and the Italians will use it as its own pasta. I'm putting flour on this, and then
Hey, question. You put it in a nest, the last batch that you cut, you put it in a nest as opposed to, say, hanging it on a dowel or over the
right, because you don't need to dry it. So we're going to use it right away. So it doesn't need to dry, so it doesn't need to hang. It's got enough flour on it that it won't stick together.
And it won't stick.
No. If it's sitting there for a long time, then it could stick if you're in a moist place like Hawaii. So if you did that, then what you would want to do is put a little extra semolina flour when you're letting it sit, and use the semolina flour to keep it from sticking to each other. And then you can put it in the fridge as well, as long as you use it within a few days, and don't let any moisture get on it. Okay, so that's batch 2 of the tonarelli. And I'm gonna do 2 more super quick. How you guys doing on the fettuccine side?
Slow, but it's going.
Okay, well, no worries, because I'm only halfway there. So once again, I'm going to knead this down a little bit, get a little flour into it. Hi, Julia Raymond and Lisa Tirani. And Avner. And Avner, I see you wear this apron all the time, buddy. I have 4 of them. They're the best. Did you get it on the Food Network? If you're still there watching. So you guys, my friend's son, his name is Avner, and he has an Instagram called Gingy Says, Gingy_says. And he was on the Kids Ultimate Baking Championship. And he's such a star. He's fantastic. I highly recommend you go and follow him on Instagram. He posts videos and he sells baked products, and love him to death. So go follow my buddy Avner. Okay, we're rolling out this second batch of tonarelli. Judah's going to be stuffed tonight. And as I said, I'm doing 4. So this was a recipe for 4, and I'm going to have 4 nests. So approximately 1 nest per person. Sarah, you should get 6. Jennifer, you're doing 6, I think, also. You got very tall people in your house. And Eric, I don't know how much pasta you're gonna make. Probably for the 2 of you, a half a box, or a half a box for Robert alone. I love you, Driggs.
I'm just doing it's a 1 pound package.
So you're gonna do the whole thing?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Second batch at 6, again, nice and thick. Different pastas, different shapes, different thicknesses. If I were doing a stuffed pasta, I'd want it a lot thinner. Okay, so we are coming down to the finish line here, people, and it wasn't that bad, was it? We've been a little less than an hour. And goodness awaits, and you still haven't gotten to see the trick. I know, I appreciate those who aren't making the pasta being patient, because you haven't gotten to the payoff. Trust me, man, it works every time. So this summer, I'll fill with fodder. This summer, we celebrated my 50th birthday in Italy and had a friend of mine, excuse me, a friend of mine also celebrated his. So we combined our groups and we had, in total, at the peak, we had 60 people at this villa in Le Marche, the Marches region of Italy. And we spent 5 days there and cooked and cooked and cooked and cooked and cooked. And it was just magnificent. The ingredients that we could source. We went to this amazing meal in a restaurant, and the owner of the restaurant gave us all the places to go source the local olive oil, the wine, the cheese. There was this old woman that made these amazing goat cheeses by hand. And we went and we spent so much time tasting cheese with her. And I made a truffle deal, like a drug deal in a parking lot. The guy sold me truffles out of a brown bag. And we ate a lot of truffles, and it was just magnificent. So anybody planning to go to Italy, I've got some good inside information for you. I'd probably stay away for the next couple of months, maybe.
When you got home, did you find out that he had done the bait and switch and it was oregano?
Oregano for truffles. All right. There's our pasta. That easy. If you haven't made pasta before, you can see that that was less than an hour of time. And you've got magnificent, so far much better than anything store-bought. And once you get the feel for it, it becomes like second nature. You get the right balance of ingredients, you get the technique down. Not a lot of effort, and the experience is well worth it. Okay, so now we're gonna get into, well, actually, are you guys done with your pasta?
Not done, but keep going.
Okay. Well, this is it. This is the finish line. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get our water boiling. This is already happening. You don't need that much water, by the way. The old notion that you need a pot filled up 3/4 of the way, you only need essentially enough water to cover the pasta that you're making, because you want the starchiness of the water. For most sauces, you want the water to get somewhat starchy. And in order to do that, you need less water. So I've been making spaghetti in a shallow pan lately. I take a saute pan, a stainless steel saute pan about that thick, and I just put a slight layer of water, and then put my spaghetti in that. Cook it till it's just below al dente, and then finish it in the sauce. This, you kind of have to cook it all the way through. I'm using fresh pasta anyway, so I'm not gonna finish the cooking in the sauce. We'll cook it all the way through, but we are gonna use some of the pasta water. Okay, so boiling water. I'm going to take one of my nests. I'm not going to make them all right now because I'm going to feed Judah, so I'm just going to do one, but I can make the sauce for all of them right now. I'm going to need a plate that I'm going to serve it on, ready to go, because this is going to go quickly. And what I'm going to do is,
Adam, I'm sorry, what will you do with the other two that you're not going to cook, or the other three that you're not going to cook? How do you put them away?
I'm just going to keep them here, and I'm going to wait until Judah comes back for dinner. But if you want, as I said before, you can just put them. You can put them on out in a fridge, open. You wouldn't want to cover them, but just take them like this, put them on a sheet pan, and put them in your fridge, and let them to continue to dry out that way. But they stay fairly well apart. Just don't get any moisture on them, and then you can use them, like that for a couple of days. Okay, so the water's going. All right, let's do it. The people who are cooking. So Eric, do you want to get your pasta in the water?
My pasta is already in the water.
Oh, okay.
I figured mine would take longer to cook than yours.
It's a thinking man, handsome and smart. Okay. So this fresh pasta just takes a very short period of time to cook. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get a bowl that I'm going to use to mix the pasta in. I'm going to use a bigger bowl in case I need to use a double boiler. So when I pull it out, I don't need to drain the whole thing. Essentially, having a little extra water in there isn't going to kill it. So my live video feed ended.
You're still here on Zoom.
No, on Instagram. I didn't even realize it could end. I guess it's only an hour. I'll do it again. I'll keep going. Okay, so I'm going to test this. It feels perfect. Al dente. It's got a bit of bite to it because it's super thick. So I'm actually going to let it go another second. But it's to the teeth. Al dente, perfect. Little bite. And then once I pull that out, I'm going to take a measuring cup and I'm going to take a little bit of the pasta water and I'm going to open up the top of my food processor and I'm going to drizzle the pasta water into the food processor. This would be the point where you would be mixing it with a whisk if you were doing it by hand. So pulling the pasta while it's al dente. The only downside of this kitchen is that I can't go high above this stupid microwave here. Okay, now I can turn this off. I'm going to start the food processor. Make sure it's on. And then I'm going to drizzle some of the pasta water in there. A little bit. And you can hear it get creamy.
Adam, can you talk about the ratio there of water to cheese?
It's a feel. It's just drizzle it until it starts to liquefy. So you can look at it here. Let me show you. Look at how smooth that is. It's like an Alfredo sauce, right? And I haven't put anything but water and cheese in there. And you can see it's creamy, super creamy. I taste it though, and it's a little thick for my preference. So I'm going to thin it out even a little bit more. So you want to taste it as you go. Oh, it's so good. So I would say that I put about a half a cup in that pound and change of pasta, of cheese. And you can hear it. You can hear it slapping the cheese around. And then I'm going to pop in the pepper. And again, it's by taste and feel. And I'm not dropping in all that I have right now. I'm going to pulse it a couple times and see. But you can tell by the spacing of the pepper in there. When you look at it, you want it to be pretty well flecked with the pepper. And that's what I'm working with right there. You can see it's smooth, it's creamy, it's light. You can't get that any other way that I have found to get it that smooth and creamy. So now I'm going to mix it with this pasta. And here's the thing. If it gets too cool, right? The time that it took you to do that, and this isn't really hot, it's just a little bit of hot pasta water. If you feel like you need to heat this up a little bit more, then you put it in this bowl over the boiling water and create a double boiler and heat it gently. Okay, but I'm just mixing the pasta in and getting it coated. And then getting it ready to plate. And then I can take, and actually, I probably would have kept aside a little extra of the cheese, not microplane, but actually shredded. I pull out a little bit so you can use it for the top, but you hit it with a little extra cheese. Maybe a little shot of pepper for good looks and people. That's cacio e pepe.
Bravo, bravo.
So beautiful.
And really, really freaking delicious. I'll wait till everybody else catches up. And does anybody need any help? Does everybody understand what I did? Are we all feeling like we know what to do next? I want to take a picture of this, actually. So I'm going to stop the Instagram feed. Good to see you, Instagram. And I'm going to take a picture before I ruin it. You know how I am, Kelly. And I know how you are. You're the same.
Did you have chicken parm as an appetizer?
No, that's for dinner. I don't eat this heavy stuff. If anybody believes that, they don't know me. Let me see if I can get better lighting. Fantastic. I will send this out so you guys can get the close-up of it. Here, let's do it with the live stream in the background. Okay, who's done? Who's got theirs done? Only me? All right, well then I'm just gonna drink wine and talk to Kelly. How's the weather in LA?
How's the weather here? It's great, actually. It's
Yeah.
actually a little bit chilly. It's like, I feel like it's been like a constant 65 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
It's sunny, so it's nice. So we've been doing a lot of walks with trying to keep this toddler busy.
Let's see who's on Facebook right now. Jenny Carr, are you on Facebook right now? Send me a text message if you're on Facebook right now so we can talk to you. Kathy Van Dyne, Daria, Kelly, EQ, one of my my food crushes and general crushes. She used to live right across the hall from me here, and she's a food stylist. And food stylists, they know what's up. They know how to make things pretty. They know how to be like ninja and make amazing food. I miss having that resource. Anything you need. Hey, I need some lemongrass. Sure, just go over and grab it.
Wow.
Yeah, anything. All right, how you guys doing? Anybody have a finished dish? Look at that. Oh, don't slip it.
It almost slid right off.
Beautiful.
Look at the steam coming off that. Nice.
Me. O'Neill's, Kestelutz, hard at work. I'm gonna taste mine. It's starting to solidify a little bit. So the thing is, you want to eat it hot. And you can, like I said, if you want to warm it up, the way to do it is to take the bowl on top of the boiling pot as a double boiler. Oh my God. Jesus Christ. This should be illegal. Like, all the good things in life have been ruined. We can't even go out in public now.
No.
I grew up in the 80s and we couldn't have sex because of AIDS. You can't eat rich food because it gives you a heart disease and makes you fat. But damn if the good things in life aren't bad for you. So do this in moderation. Only make it once a day. You guys feel like you got good technique on that? Are you going to buy a food processor?
Maybe we can get the mini one, right? We don't need the full size one.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, if you're only using it for this, I would imagine you'd have 100 things to use it for.
So can I just say about food processors? The best food processor is what Adam has and what I have, which is the Cuisinart.
Cuisinart, yeah.
It's the old school Cuisinart. The only place that I know that you can still buy that is from Williams Sonoma and occasionally on Amazon.
Amazon, yeah.
Cuisinart has stopped manufacturing this version. The new one is stupid. Don't buy the new one. This is the best food processor on the market.
Let's see it, Ludi.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Look at that.
Pretty good.
How does it taste?
So yum. I'm going to go off screen and shovel it all into my face.
Okay. Well, look, I think we're done here. Sarah, do you have something to show us yet? Oh, she's mixing her pasta up now. Look at that. That is a lot.
Also, I love our fancy food processor. You can't see from here, but it is the Braun that my husband was given when he went to college.
Oh,
so
wow.
it's about 30 something years old and it's awesome. Still works like a champ.
So you married a much older man. Is that what you're telling us?
Clearly, since I'm only 26.
So guys, look, this is super fun for me. I'm going to do more. I hope you guys come back and join me. I got nothing better to do with my time right now. So shoot me things you want me to make. But I'm definitely going to be doing this more.
You know what needs to be next, Zolot?
Caesar salad?
No.
Yes.
Cow soy. That's a multi-day thing, but I've had multiple people ask me, so I may do that. But yeah, put suggestions in Facebook, in comments, and put pictures of your dishes so that everybody can see them. You guys did great. And I hope you're able to do this again on your own. Love each and every one of you. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Adam. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Great job, Z.
Thanks, Adam.
Bye.
Bye.
How do you